So this is 18, again, same section, dealing with plans to build a chemical plant. So take a moment, read this one over, and then we'll talk about it together. So the students saying the correct answer is C. The protesters had a reason for making the argument. Originally, I picked A as a tempting answer choice, especially if you rush. So the flaw here, most of the protesters were there only because they were paid to show up. So the protesters' claims are being dismissed because they were paid to show, most of them were paid to show up. So it's attacking the character of the protesters, attacking their motives, attacking their inclinations or their reasons, and saying that therefore their arguments are not valid. So this is kind of a variation on an ad hominem attack, I would say. And so yes, C is correct here. C is the correct answer. The motivation some people have for making it. So they're saying some here. The stimulus says most, but some is like a more vague quantification, but still valid. Most, some is anything from one to all. So some actually includes most. So for that reason, it's not an unacceptable scope shift here. The key to see is that it's talking about motivation. And we know the motivation is they were paid to show up. But yeah, that's what they're doing. It's a personal attack. And the protesters' reasons for the reasons for protesting, the claims they're making about the health problems could still be valid. They could still be correct, valid concerns that should not be dismissed. The fact that even if the majority were paid doesn't mean the concerns of those protesters or others could still be valid at the same time. Now, this student says they originally picked A as being tempting because the stimulus is making two separate claims. But let's look at what A is saying specifically. The argument mischaracterizes an opposing view and then attacks this mischaracterized view. Well, what are the two views here? We have there's the plans to build the chemical plant. There's the protests against the chemical plant. Is it opposing? Yeah, maybe. Obviously, they're protesting something. So there's the thing being protested, and then there's the protesters' claims themselves. So there are two different sides, I guess you could say, but they're not really presenting them as being two sides. They're only really talking about what the protesters themselves are saying. And then are they mischaracterizing the view itself? I don't think they are. They're mischaracterizing, they're at least shedding suspicion on the motivations of the protesters. But I don't know that they're necessarily mischaracterizing, or to put it another way, that they're describing their claims incorrectly or ungenerously. The student here is saying that it's not a flaw and there weren't opposing views. So yeah, of course, with any flaw question, the wrong answer choices are incorrect because they're not a flaw the argument is guilty of committing. Specifically, it would be flawed to mischaracterize a view, but I think the student here is correct in saying that they weren't opposing views. I really don't think that this argument is presenting them as being two opposite sides. They're focusing on the protesters and their motivations and then dismissing them because of their supposed motivations. So I think that was a good analysis there. But again, I would say just try to, for the student, be a bit more thorough in your analysis. I think that it would be good to characterize this as being an ad hominem attack of sorts, attacking the motivations rather than the substance of the argument itself. But I do like that the student said they picked A as a tempting wrong choice, to kind of do that post analysis of what was tempting and why, especially if time was a constraint there, if that was an issue. To talk about that in your analysis, I think is valuable. So great job on that one.